So I'm Brandon Willis. I've been a member of the Fort Wayne Railroad Historical Society for, 9 years now. Started out one year in 2016, and it was around open house that time. The 765 happened to derail at our shop there, and that was my first instance with the society and the steam engine. And so that was my first big project, was putting this thing back on the rails. And then after that, there was this diesel engine sitting out back, and it had pretty much languished since 2010. So about 6 years, been sitting back there. Been worked on here and there, but no, the project never really got off the ground. And so we, the core group of us, and a few of the originals that started back in 2013, 14, somewhere in there, got together and decided it's going to be a viable project. And as you see, this is what we have today to show for it. So it says my background. I've been basically a mechanic for pretty much all my life. This is all I've ever really done, mostly on cars. My current day job is a heavy truck mechanic, so it's a little out of my norm, my wheelhouse for locomotives, but it's been fun. I've always had a passion for trains, so even since I was a kid, of course, every kid likes Thomas Tank Engines. So, and now we do it on a 1-to-1 scale, and it's been fun. So anyway, what drawed me to this project is it was a fresh start. It was a clean slate. I hear everybody talk about the 765 and how when they pulled it out of the park, it was dead, it was cold, it was rusty, it was and now it's this the magnificent machine, as it likes to be called. And it is what it is, and that didn't take place overnight. It happened over many years, and been through many rebuilds, and so it's this was me getting into a story at the beginning, as opposed to jumping in midway through. So I got involved in it, and when we did the very first thing we did for probably an entire year was just clean out rust and raccoon poop out of it. It was a project, and it was cold. We were always outside. It was hot. We were outside. It was raining. We were outside. We never really got a shop space, and then eventually the project took off. It really gained traction. We got a lot of donors. We got a lot of donations, a lot of big corporate sponsors, and donations aside from monetary parts and and other things that really helped us out, and eventually got a plan put together. W.D. Miller, really took charge of it and put us a plan together, and we went after it, and we followed the plan. About 2017 is when the project really started. So it was that would have been about 8 years ago. So yeah, it's been about 8 years we've been working on it, and it's one of those things. You start with the big stuff, and you get all the way down to the nitty gritty. And as you can see, after talking to Carson today, we're still, even to this day, chasing critters out of it, chasing bugs out of it, and everything. But we're getting it. It's moving under its own power. It's pulling trains. It's making money. It's out in the spotlight, and that's where we're at right now. Locomotive was donated by Norfolk Southern in 2010 to the Society. And Mad River and Nickel Plate Museum up in Bellevue had a hand in it. Chris and Dwayne up there. There was 2 locomotives donated, the 349 and the 358. 358, as you can see, they have the 349. So there was a collaboration between us and them, and we ended up with this one, and they got 349. So that was basically how the project came to start. That had been 2010, and so it's set for quite a few years. And then, as I said earlier, they got a hold of it and started doing some things to it. Did some car body work. Getting it stabilized it was our first priority, and that was for any of us coming along. And so once it was stabilized, then we took over. Definitely got a head start on it. Got more stabilization going. It was just clean and clean and clean and clean. So I believe. Let's see, and then we got. So going back to the Mad River and Nickel Plate Museum up in Bellevue, became a parts donor for us. Their locomotive is a static display, so there is a lot of parts that it donated to this project. So theirs has given its life, so ours could have its own. All right, so a lot of what I did was metal work. I did a good bit of that. This whole cab side up here where the handrail attaches to the cab was all caved in from a switching accident. Something set out too close to a switch or whatever. But anyway, also too, up top where you see a sunshade up there is a good place for water to lay. So that rotted out naturally. So I had to get up there and cut all that out and have a piece made that had a nice radius in it to match the roof and everything. Well, in the midst of cutting everything out up there, I just smelled this sweet, nice smell. I couldn't figure out what it was. I said, man, that smells like cigars. So I stopped what I was doing with a torch, and we started pulling everything out of the way, Carson and I, and we got down out of there. Next thing you know, cigars start falling down out from underneath the sunshade. The old sunshade, that's a new one, but yeah, it started falling down out there. So you start thinking about, like, where did these come from? Who had these? When did they have these? How long have they been up there? What were they doing at the time? So it's kind of a, living history of this thing. It's, it was built in 1957, so have they been up there from day one or, whatever? Nobody really knows, but it's just another one of those little artifacts. So that was cool. So we took all that out of there and we built our new cab roof radius there and put the new sunshade on and rebuilt our cab side. That was a lot of fun. That was many months worth of work coming over on weekends and a lot of hey, when are you going to get that cab side done from WD? But I got it's done. So here we are. But and both battery boxes were rebuilt, as you can imagine, with battery acid and of course just water laying in there in general. They didn't last too long. But this one here is rebuilt by Carson. One I did was on the other side. All walkways were pretty much replaced. We've had a lot of underbody work. There's a multitude of issues with rusting metal from sitting, and being in service since 1957 for the most part. After and this was slated to be a remote unit by Norfolk Southern, so they were about 2/3 of the way through the process converting it to a remote unit and decided they wanted to scrap it. So at that point, then they went in and started cutting cables and everything else that goes along with it, and so that was a major hurdle to go over from there too, was figuring out what goes where and what we need, to bring it back to life, and so that was pretty big. But yeah, aside from that, most of what I did on it was fab work and a lot of consulting, having other people do certain things that needed done that I knew needed done, like push Brody around on that one. One of our colleagues, he kind of bounces back and forth between the two. Brody Brown, he's been instrumental in this. He's instrumental. He wants to do anything you tell him to do, absolutely anything. All the stuff nobody wants to do, you tell him, Brody, go do that, and Brody, go do that. So it was always a good time. Brody, just a good little shout out to Brody Brown there. We couldn't have done it without him, although we would have liked to sometimes. Love you, Brody.
All right, so yesterday Carson went through and showed you all the different functions of the control stand. And he was testing the alerter and that type of stuff to make sure that every time you move the throttle or the independent brake or brake handle, ring the bell, blew the horn, that type of thing, that the alerter would reset itself. Along with that, then we have an event recorder on the locomotive as well, and that records everything, all the functions that are on the control stand. And then it also records rate pipe pressure, ring cylinder pressure, throttle settings, cam loadings, which direction we're going. It measures how far the locomotive is traveling in either direction. And there's a couple other auxiliary inputs that we can utilize too if we wanted to. So it basically, all the functions of the locomotive are recorded in this event recorder. So as part of our 92-day, we will download this and keep a record of it. That way, if there's anything we need to go back and look at, we can certainly do. So we have a couple different programs here. This is about the most technical thing on the entire locomotive, being a 1957 vintage. So this will download everything that's in that recorder. It doesn't. It'll write over the oldest data in there. So this might go back several months, and especially because this locomotive doesn't get used every day. So primarily 2 to 3 weekends a month that this locomotive gets ran. So we probably have data here in trenches all the way back to May or well, at least May, yeah. So, but that's when the reporter was put in. This is one of the items that William Lake Curie Brewster shops did for us. They helped finish out our event recorder. We had a lot of the hair plumbed in and such that they finished out the electrical side of it. Provided a couple other parts and pieces that we were missing, and then of course all the technical expertise to get it installed and qualified there for us. So, we're finished here. So I'll hit finish there and loads out the software, and I'll come over here and pull up these. There's a separate software then to be able to read it. To look at the data that we just downloaded. So get this fired up. This takes a moment to do. So this is basically like a car line graph that we can look at. So this data goes back to, this was yesterday's. And then we had, let's see here, we get down. So there you can see right here, this is brake white pressure. This is our brake cylinders. Ring the bell. This is all during that testing that we did yesterday. So here you can see your throttle notches. I started off in 3, went to 2, jumped to 6, back to 3, down to idle. And then, this might have been a hill that they were on, running downhill. And then they went back into a hill, got back up to knot 7, down a hill again, and then back into the power. So, and then same with the bell. So the bell is on, bell is off, bell is on. These are all probably grade crossings. And then there's your horn. So the horn coincides with the bell. Yeah. Now you see the brake pipe pressures, brake cylinders, that kind of stuff. So, and then your load amps too. So when this locomotive was having some problems with loading here recently, we used this also as some diagnostics to be able to see where we were at throttle position and what the loading amps were of the generator and what kind of power was getting put to the traction motors. So utilizing this plus some other usually trial and error and deduction of this works but this doesn't work type of approach, we were able to figure out that with pretty certainty that our load regulator was bad. So we're switching out the load regulator. That'll correct some problems that we had with some AMs. So otherwise, so we'll save this file. Let's go in as a permanent record with the locomotive file, along with some other hard copy paperwork. I'll print out this when I get back to the office and print this out, put it in the file as well. And then we'll do a verify test also with the recorders so they can verify that it is actually working as intended. So we'll get into that in just a moment as well. Kent?